Hello everybody and welcome to the third and final round of the 2021 IMSA iRacing Pro Series presented by...
as well. One thing I quite like about it is it's quite a short lap, so you get to do a lot of them, so you can fine-hone yourself without spending too much time. You know, if you get one corner wrong at Le Mans, you've got another 3.5 minutes to get round to that same corner again. Here it's 1 minute and 10.
If you want to get in touch with us, it's IMSA at IMSA Radio. That'll come through to us here in the booth. Well, it's been an action-packed season so far with our first 2 rounds, and it's all still to play for as we come to the final 1 hour of racing. Qualifying is going to start in a moment. We'll bring you up to date with that. But of course, we can't do any of our racing in the real world or indeed in virtual simulated racing without our partners. And bringing you this IMSA iRacing Pro Series for 2021 has been SimCraft.
My name is Sean Patrick MacDonald. I am the co-founder and chief technology officer at SimCraft.
Today we're going to talk about what makes SimCraft different. Full body feel, or motion simulation. Motion simulation has been around since the early 1950s. The Stewart platform, the hexapod, was invented back then for aviation. And there's a whole lot of other approaches out there on the market, some of which just move the seat around, leaving the steering wheel and pedals and the cockpit ultimately stationary. But there's really only one way physics work, and realistic motion simulation must take the lead from how vehicles behave in the real world, how they rotate, how they translate. Simulation, after all, is a recreation of a process or a system over time. The recreation of the environment is the key here. So it's based on a real-world application of racing a car, and the physics is our guide for how to move the cockpit of the cockpit. So ultimately the cockpit becomes the vehicle, the virtual vehicle, and the relationship of the driver to the controls and the graphics, which show the perspective out the windshield, doesn't change during the simulation. Operate at a high efficiency and can deliver motion cues without perceivable delay. So this methodology allows for independent degrees of freedom, or degrees of freedom that are completely separate, both mechanically and logically, from the other degrees of freedom. This is important because that's how it works in real physics. The approach also allows us to package various units with different degrees of freedom. Many combinations, small footprint units up to 3 degrees of freedom, and our large footprint unit, which goes all the way up to full motion, 6 DOF. And every unit we build maintains the same approach to motion, translating and rotating at the center of mass of the cockpit, independent degrees of freedom. And the structures around the cockpit are designed to support it, so the actuators can work efficiently. The entire system is modular, which allows our clients to build up an upgrade from any point in our product line all the way up to 6 degrees of freedom. And every degree of freedom is also individually tunable in real time. So ultimately, when the sim is dialed in for the driver, they can feel.
My name is Sean Patrick MacDonald. I am the co-founder and chief technology officer.
Pro Series presented by SimCraft, our inside story there. I'm sure, Nick, you were spotting all the racetracks on the screens there for those of you who are watching. And we need a SimCraft rig in our life, Nick, don't we?
Yeah, honestly, I'm very lucky because both my stepdaughters have flown the nest. I have spare rooms for one now. Excellent. So absolutely, send me one over. Happy to do a really in-depth review. No
Excellent. Our skin would be like white paper if we got one of those. We would never see daylight. No. Never see daylight again. All right, this is the location for our final race of the SimCraft IMSA iRacing Pro Series for 2021. Braselton, Georgia, just off I-85, 12 corners. Just over 2.5 miles around. The awesome uphill at turn 1, which in a prototype is barely a lift nowadays. Opportunities to pass, well, not through the S's, but turn 6, yes. Really important to get out of turn 7. It's one of those corners in virtual reality, just like in real life, where you always think you can take a little more speed in, and it's so important because the longest bit of straight is actually from 7 through the 2 kinks at 8 and 9 all the way down to 10. And it's always feels slow until you just go over the curb. Then the braking area down at the bottom of the hill at turn 10. Another opportunity for passing. Here's the race analysis from SimCraft here at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. 1 full hour, 2 fast repairs available, open setups again. Now it's 100% for LMP2 in terms of the fuel, but to make things more interesting, as we have been doing all season, the GT Le Mans cars have only 75% to start with. That means they will have to have a pit stop. There's 31 cars in the field, and that's split almost down the middle with just 1 more GT Le Mans with 16 than the 15 LMP2s. Nick, you've been doing a lot of driving round here just in the last couple of weeks or so. GT Le Mans, 75%. Where's their fuel window going to be?
They're both going to be around about 41, 42 minutes, I would think. That's the little bit, but you get a little bit longer on the P2s here.
So the GT Le Mans, their window opens at about 20 minutes. Then is what you're saying.
Yes, you can.
Yeah,
both of them can go. And so if you have an accident, you don't have to go an extra run down the lane. With the fast repair, it won't cost you too much, just the recovery time. But it is the fastest way round to run the tank as dry as possible before you come to your stop, because you'll be lightest for the longest amount of time. Yep,
makes perfect sense. Let's take a look at our keys to the race then. Class Wars, not Star Wars. It was May the 4th earlier this week, but Class Wars tonight. And around this short track, there's going to be a lot of passing that is intra-class, Nick.
Yeah, you cannot get past from turn 3 to turn 5.
Hence my second point here, the S's.
Unless the car
single line
lets you. Yeah, you can get past if the slower car helps you. If the slower car stays on their line, which is obviously what they're supposed to do, you can't get past, and that's 2.5 seconds in the PT you'll lose.
And that S's then, that is literally not Nusha Fox and just a single bed, but just a single line in the S's. Is that right?
Yeah, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, and then to 5, and you can just then once you blast up and get past people on the way up to turn 6. Yeah.
I want to talk about the championship. It's very, very tight indeed. With in LMP2, just 12 points between the top 3. Daniel Morad leads by a point from Mirko Bortolotti and James Vance in 3rd. But really what I'm talking about here in the championship, in both GT Le Mans and LMP2, is you could be racing for the championship against people who just want to win the race. Is that going to affect mentality for the championship contenders?
Well, yeah, in the championship, it looks like, unfortunately, Mirko Bortolotti isn't able to appear in this event. So Daniel Morad has a long lead in the championship. Of course, back this week is Scott Andrews, who won our first round at Sebring but couldn't be at WeatherTech. He's going to want to win the race outright, as is new boy Ross Gunn, who's looked very quick in practice. So, Daniel may play the percentage game, but he hasn't got much to lose, really. So, in many ways, he may try and race them for the win.
Curb your enthusiasm and curb with a K. There have been some changes to the modelling of Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, and it has made a difference, particularly for the prototypes.
Yeah, the P2s don't like the curves very much, especially effectively the curbs at 3 and at 5, where you need to stay off both of those because they'll bounce you into the wrong place very quickly.
Is that the apex curb you talked about at 5? Yeah, or are you talking about where
the inside curb on 5? Because actually, if you want to miss that on 5 and then gently run out onto the exit, because it's not so much a curb, it's a whole kind of flattened area, isn't it now, for the exit point? 6 and 7, there's no real advantage in taking the curb, and actually, as always, going into chicane 10A and 10B, you can be quite liberal because they're quite flat, those curbs. They're more motorcycle style. But yeah, very careful on the one, certainly at the top of the hill at turn 3, which is blind in first place.
Nobody has an accident at turn 3 in anything.
No, I've never heard of anyone doing that in a Mazda.
No. Even in real life. And the tyres, our fifth SimCraft key to the race, and the tyres. Now, tyres, is it a problem here? Because it's not a high grip circuit.
No, it's no problem at all. No one will have any issue with tyres. They won't even have significant drop-off. You should be fuel weight will be far more important than tyres, unless you are doing something severely wrong, or you've got your setup severely wrong. If you've got there isn't that real way where monstering it helps. It's quite a precise track, oddly. You're doing the fast corners, turn 1. Even that's the deceleration, which is easier at the front end of the car. And then the rest of the time you're accelerating with slow speed.
Okay. Well, cars in actually on the grid, so we must be getting ready to go. And so let's take a look at how they have qualified. I think we've got Scott Andrews somewhere near the front of the field. The 51 and the 52 are sitting together there on the second row. So yes, indeed, Scott Andrews from Daniel Morad. So the two winners in LMP2 ahead of the Win Twins. That's WINNS. That's the 52 of Mikkel Jensen and Scott Huffaker in the 51. Those cars are pretty much identical. Ross Gunn, confirmed this week, is doing the full season in IMSA in real life. He lines up then. Look behind, James Vance and Harry Gottsacker, Michael Johnson, Lance Wilsey, Robert Wickens. Welcome, Robert. He's running in a Brian Herter Autosport Hyundai N style prototype, and that's because he was actually driving one of the BHA Hyundai TCR cars early this week in the pouring rain at Mid-Ohio. He wants to get back to racing, and we wish him well in that. It's Augustin Canapino, Argentinian driver, on pole in the GT Le Mans series from Rodrigo Fluker. We know how quick that Ferrari is. Bruno Spengler, we know how quick Bruno is. Very lucky at Sebring last time out. Julian Santero alongside him. Philip Eng, 2 wins from 2 at the moment. The 89, the bright red BMW in a 5th position with John Edwards for company alongside him. Then it's Tommy Milner for Corvette, Tyler McQuarrie, Dylan Murray, Mike Ogren, John Tetsche, Randy Solari in a very, very good looking Ferrari with a green stripe over the top on row 6. And behind them, Conor De Filippi, rather further back in the BMW than he would like, Spencer Pumpelly, and then Augusto Farfus did have a good qualifying. Split starts here, Nick, which I really like. It's just a question.
It'll be fun for both. So I get the impression that they've been asked by the organisers the GCMs to actually come round as normal.
Here we go then. Final race of the 2021 season. The countdown has begun. We're into the hour. LMP2 start, and immediately Scott Andrews in the 74 gets his start and does what he needs to do. The bright red car going through in second is Daniel Morad for Moradness Racing. Then the first of the Win Twins is Mikkel Jensen, split by Ross Gunn from his teammate Huffaker. Scott Huffaker in 5th position. Then James Vance. The GTLMs have got underway as well. Augustin Canapino from Fluker, and there was an oof there from Nick. What did you see?
Some at the back, someone took the exit at 5 line. They probably put the inside of 5 and then bounced around. It was a light blue car who would be dropping down the field. Possibly that maybe Rob Wickens.
I think it was Robert Wickens in.
Oh no,
yeah,
dark blue one as well. I'm not sure, but one of the blue cars went. It was Robert. Yep, you're right. Yeah,
it was Wickens in the Wickens, who is in the 6 car, isn't he? Yeah, I was going to say the 9, but if he'd been in the 9, things would have been very bad for him, because he would have been upside down. In that eggshell blue Brian Herter Autosport Hyundai N liveried car. So the Win Twins, 52, Mikkel Jensen from Scott Huffaker, but they are nearly 3 seconds away from Scott Andrews, who has set sail into the sunset. Canapino, Fluker, Spengler, Santero, Philippe Eng, champion-elect, I think you've got to say at this point, with 2 wins under his belt. Remember, Spengler away for the last one because he was welcoming a new addition to the family. So, at the moment, the battle for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th. Number 9 is Ross Gunn. Now, earlier, what happened at the sharp end of the field? Well, That was a very sideways moment. Very sideways moment indeed for that bright red LMP2. Let's have a threw you a curveball there early on, but he was very quick indeed. Then Bruno Spengler, just so relaxed behind the steering wheel in his rig, Nick. Picking up any tips there?
Well, I think it is key actually. One of the things you need to do is let this track flow. It's a surprisingly complex track of only 12 corners, but every single one there's not really one where you can say, well, that's not important. All the elements you have to string together a lap. It's really hard to string together a lap, in fact, in many ways. Here you're coming across the start-finish line. It seems like a very simple thing just to put the power down, but you've got to really balance the car across. You can see they're using all the road. Those second half track curves are okay, and here in the GTLM, a brake and a gear tucking tight into one, and then you come up the hill. And this is a great view because you can see nothing as you turn in between three, and then you go cut across and get this angle here. Not taking I think it may have taken a little bit too much. There may have got a 1x, won't be a major problem. But if you try and do that on the prototypes, it'll unsettle the car all the way around that loop across the top of 4 as well. So it's a really complex circuit, but you're threading the needle the whole time.
Yeah, and it's all about balancing the car and getting the feel. Down towards turn 6 with Spengler now. For the white marks on the road, they're a good way to spot your braking point. Take an inordinate amount of speed through 6 because it is slightly cambered in your favour. 7, you do not want to run out over the yellow and blue curbs because that is Georgia clear out there. Let's listen to Ross Gunn through 1. Oh, that was just a lift down a gear and straight back on again over the skyline at 2 and into 3, staying away from that curb, or at least getting as straight as possible. That Talara of Ross Gunn is moving around. Ross Gunn, not the tidiest of a very tidy driver, but not the tidiest of race rooms, Nick Damon. Is that a pair of jeans on the floor that he's dumped behind him?
And he's shopping from the local supermarket, Tesco, as well. Yeah, and he's obviously a big fan of Jensen Button, the way he's reading the book. So yes, I think his mum will be very upset to see this currently being shown on worldwide TV. I must admit, but his driving's okay, and the rig obviously has absolute pride of place, doesn't it? Really, there you can see that it's not really, nothing is as important. Perhaps the toothbrush maybe just as important as the rig, and that's it really.
Well, I think the IKEA helmet rack, we've all used those racks, haven't we? If I turn around, actually, I'm looking at my motorcycle and race helmets 8 wide in exactly, except it's laid down the other way. Ross Gunn then sitting in 3rd position at the moment in that black Recaro sponsored car with the chrome sort of gills. Runs 4th in the BMW. That's the yellow and black car. Right ahead of him, Bruno Spengler in the BMW, and in fact that is the lead battle. That's Canapino just going through turn 5 now, running out over the curb and onto one of the opts, now down towards turn 6, and just about to link onto the back of that is John Edwards. So the top 6 are all BMWs, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, with the flight that Rodrigo Fluker took from the Ferraris to BMW, I think they're following the feeling that it was the car to have in this particular setup. We have a phalanx of BMW streaking down the turn 8, turn 9 to the hairpin. Now you wonder, are they all going as fast as they can, given of course with some slipstream, or is August Canapino a cork in the bottle and they're all looking to get past? And there's a dive up the inside there from Fluker, and he's going to take the inside through 10A and 10B. Now our 2 cars get through, looking like Spengler's giving it a go. Oh, not sure. Spengler's going to get cut off on the inside coming through start finish, John.
Down towards the final corner, Spengler hung out on the outside. Lovely driving by Canapino. That's very, very fair in real or virtual driving. They're still side by side. So from 10B all the way through turn 1, 2 BMWs still side by side, and Spengler only makes the move stick as he goes across the brow between 2 and 3, and that has allowed Rodrigo Fluker to pull out a second on that battle that started way back at the end of the back straight. And I think that Agustin Canapino will be rather cursing his luck there at the black, silver and grey Bureau Sud BMW Bank zebra stripe car, now up into second place for Spengler in GT Le Mans. At the front of the field, 5.4 seconds, the two Scots, Scott Andrews, then 5.5 seconds to the first of the win cars, Scott Huffaker. Roscoe back up to third, ahead of Daniel Morad in the red number 70, then James Vance. Where has the other win twin gone? That has disappeared. Retired.
Retired, yeah. He may have had a disconnect. He just isn't shown anymore. It's interesting that, so I was wondering whether the Canapino was going to be able to get past Spengler again down the back straight, but it doesn't seem like he's got quite the same pace in the car, so maybe running a slightly different downforce setting, because it's a very good toe down there for cars of the same class, but he wasn't able to do what Fluker did to him, just pop out into the slipstream. So
that red, white and blue, that is the James Vance number 83. When you see that front on, particularly coming down the back straight, if it's a slightly elevated camera, how much does that look like a Porsche 962? Really, it does. Is it just my eyes?
No, I'm sure it's deliberate. Yeah, you can get the liveries. There are liveries now obviously available for this car, which you can download for just about every single class. You have a Pink Pig version you want. You have all sorts of versions of this car.
We have the Pink Pig in this race, actually. Pink Pig has been run here by Michael Johnson, the number 12 car, and that is being run currently sitting in 8th position. It's certainly the right colour for the Pink Pig, even if it doesn't have the cuts of meat on it. But I've written that down in my notes as Pink Pig Pink, and that is very Pink Pig Pink, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. No, so one of the great things is this thing called an item called Trading Paints, and you can download every single livery you want. It's amazing, because when you go to race against Joe Bradley, he always downloads the Martini colours, the Brabham BT44 for everything.
Of course he does, because he's a man of a certain age.
He is, and a man obsessed with the Brabham BT44.
Quite clearly. At IMSA Radio, if you want to get in touch with us, we are still just on about 11 minutes gone, so 49 minutes to run. Porsche number 91, the unmistakable howl of the flat six. That's Dylan Murray running in 9th position. Behind him, Tyler McQuarrie in the black and green BMW. Those BMWs do sound very good indeed. Let's head back to the front of the field. 5th place, Philipp Eng, Austrian, leading the championship in GT Le Mans at the moment, and handsomely leading by 70 points to Conor De Filippi's 58, John Edwards 53, Riley Dickinson 49, Julian Santero 46, 35 points for a win. Let's not forget, still on the old IMSA scoring in the Pro Series here, presented by SimCraft. Virtual Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, looking absolutely splendid. What's the track temperature like, Nick? Because you've got some of that data that I don't have here.
Yes, I should do, but I'm just.
It's been very sunny all the time that we've been out practicing qualifying. I was just wondering how the track temperature is starting to rise. The shadows are pretty short, so the sun is very high.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, the two screens I'm looking at, that piece of information doesn't appear to be here.
No problems. 5 seconds at the front of the field, but the BMW quartet is still battling on. Fluke is a second up the road from that. Andrews has a clear track ahead of him, even just takes the left hand off the steering wheel and relaxes for a wee moment through the kink at turn 9. Where's his braking point? Let's have a look. Oh, well, so about that first line on the track, just before you bottom out at the bottom of the hill, down through the final corner. It is like dropping off the edge of the world when you come under the bridge there. There used to be a little flag mark on the bridge that you aimed for and drove straight through that, and it is absolutely terrifying the first time you do it at any kind of racing or qualifying speed, because you really think you're just going to spear off the road to the left. It's also very, very bumpy in the final corner as well, and the best line is not necessarily what looks like the optimum racing line. So you have to sort, depending on what car you're driving, you have to sort of miss. Ross Gunn, I think, just about hanging onto that. Yes, he does, as they dive over the top of the hill. Was remarking to Drew and Cisco, our production team from iRacing and iRacing Controlling, Mission Control in Boston, just how impressed I was by the standard of driving. And of course, as I say that, there's contact. Morad side-swiping there.
I was sitting there thinking, I don't think Ross Gunn's done enough laps on this track to realise what's going to happen if he doesn't give the space to Morad. You can't run two through that entry in between two and turn three. It just isn't possible. Morad stayed as far as he could over to the left, but Ross came across and, as you see, tried to take his line, coming to sweep back across to get that right-hander at turn three and just clip the front of it. I'd be interested. Hopefully Morad's not got any damage, because Ross is going to feel very aggrieved. He's going to be all very sweary about the whole thing, I'm sure, in the cockpit. But unfortunately, that's inexperience of running around side by side at Road Atlanta, and he should have actually just given it best at that one, and then run through, and then try to get him back with some slipstream later.
Yeah, Morad, I think, has survived. Let's keep an eye on the lap times of the bright red. Moradness Racing at number 70. He's 9 seconds away from the leader. Scott Andrews has just put another fastest lap in 1:10.0. 70 seconds, excuse me, around Road Atlanta. It was all well and good, and they were playing cannily together to the top of the hill at turn 2. Ross gets too much of the curb on the inside.
Yeah, well, actually what happened was, you see, that Morad kind of did try to move across, and Ross was kind of on his racing line the whole time, but he should have given more space. So Morad tried to avoid it. He sort of took out the 3 cones at the top of the hill, but yeah, perhaps that's not quite so much Ross. I mean, I think, but really, yeah, if you're playing an hour race, you should just ease back and valiant to fight a second. Once you've got the inside line coming out the hill, realistically, the track is yours.
The curb, we talked about the curb at turn 3, and I think he took a little bit much of that, and that just bounced him across.
Hey, look, Morad's got the lead here. He comes in, brakes as he turns. He's given him
room. There's more than a car's width there.
Yeah, I think Ross may have lost him. Ross has got 3 screens, so he shouldn't have lost him. But as you say,
I think he's
could have tightened up on that one. I'm going to put that down to Ross's inexperience. Ross has taken a tow, by the way. Do you not
think Morad should have just lifted off?
He put himself in that position at that point. He could have easily slotted behind and then waited to half lap to slipstream down through the long run to the chicane.
I'll guarantee you that he won't be doing that in the heart of racing Aston when he gets into that later.
Yeah, I mean, I think you don't tend to see those accidents in the real world, because even peripheral vision is so much better, and also the survival instinct is so much higher.
Fair point.
Because but I still think one of the standout points of the last Overtaking racing in the USA is how much better these professional drivers were at being overtaken than your standard sim racers are. Well, that one unfortunately just proves that even the professionals can get it wrong in the sim world.
Yeah, that's Nick Damon. I'm John Hindorf. And we're just coming down to the 20-minute. Oh, big slide at the top of the hill, right in front of Bruno Spengler, and that's going to be a huge incident. Right in there is Michael Johnson, and the car that started it all was James French for Performance Tech Motorsport. There's all kinds of damage on BMWs as well. That again is at the top of the hill at turn number 2. Both of them back in the pit lane. The 12 pink car, that's Michael Johnson, 45. The blue was the man from Sheboygan, Wisconsin, just up the road from Elkhart Lake in Road America. That would be James's local circuit. Now, did he lose it on his own at the top of the hill at turn 2, or did he get some assistance there? But that's what started it. It was right in front of Spengler, who I think avoided it. Canapeno must have been close to hitting, but that front of that BMW looks okay, as does the yellow and black Julian Santero car. So blue car up to the top of the hill. That's the one that's going to have the accident. Just
Turned him way
completely
too
the wrong
early.
line, Nick.
Yeah, he turned him way too. He was unsighted by the BMW trying to get past. He turned in too early, double curbed it, and then tried to get going again. So realistically, he made half a mistake. Michael Johnson was very unlucky to come across him at that
Totally
point.
unsighted
really,
there, mate.
Really hard. You're unsighted, and you can't really get the car off the line more in any way at all. So that's just one of those things, was just bad luck. But it was caused by a pretty big mistake, in all honesty, at the start of that by James French.
Just noticed Randy Solari keeping out the way as the leaders came through. Robert Wickens is running again. He's right in front of the black and silver BMW of Bruno Spengler. Then the Canapeno car, the leaders got away a wee bit. So onboard noise and vision from Philippe Eng. How close was he to having his race ruined? Very close indeed, as he threaded the needle between Johnson's car, which I think was up in the air at the time, and the number 45, sorry, of James French, which was up in the air, and Johnson's car, which had spun right in front of him. Barely a lift there.
He was quite lucky. He lost about a second trying to avoid that, and he was quite lucky actually. Because
He lost a second?
Yeah.
And a few grey hairs.
Yeah, exactly, yes. But lucky that Michael Johnson bashed the car out of the way from him and gave him a clean path, wasn't it, really?
Well, it's true enough.
So
because
he got through.
But you just can't see over the top of the hill from 2 beyond 3. You commit as you're coming over the rise to the little left-hand kink at 2. If there's anything over the rise at 3, heading into the left-hander at 4, you can't see it. But you particularly can't see a low-slung prototype, Nick.
Yeah, so one of the things that has changed recently on iRacing is there's much more smoke. So when you have a spin, you get a lot more tyre smoke. So you get a kind of smoke signals telling you that it might be a bit of a problem. You'll get a yellow flag warning in the cab in the cockpit as well, and you can see the smoke. So you know there's something going on. You don't know where it is, and you are blind. You're blind in about 3 places. You have an instant here where you can't see it. You're also blind if something happens just after 5 as well.
So got a bit of a battle now for second as Canapeno gets a second wind, perhaps. Still just under 40 minutes to go. So we're in the window now for the LMP2 cars and for the GT Le Mans. Now remember, the GT Le Mans cars only start with 75% of their fuel, full fuel quota. That's to make them stop so it doesn't become a fuel mileage race. I like this rule, but that does mean we know they can go about 40 minutes on 75%. So if somebody was to come in now, they could go to the end. In normal racing, you'd probably do that in case you got caught on the wrong side of a safety car, but there will be no safety car intervention here this weekend. Fastest lap, another fastest lap for Scott Andrews, down to 109.7 now, and in GT Le Mans, Augustin Canapeno in his pursuit of Bruno Spengler in that white and green car. That's Canapeno. He's down to a 116.473. Canapeno, a picture of concentration, and again he and Spengler battling it out, but models, I promise you that is not a frozen picture of Augustin Canapeno, but just pure concentration and barely any movement at all. Nick, they are just trying to be smooth.
Yeah, it's really interesting to watch Augustin. He's really focusing absolutely on the central part. He's got his peripheral vision looking at each other's screens, but he knows what he's got to do. And realistically, he has to get as close as possible to Spengler to either inspire a mini mistake or get close enough to get a decent drag down the straight. And at the moment, as they come up the hill towards 6, he's still a little bit far away. He's going to need to really push hard through 6 and 7 to get right on the tail to try and get a slipstream. As you say, this one's really quick on 6. You've got the camber helping. And the thing to me about 7, and it's really important, is it's more than 90 degrees.
Yes.
In your mind, you think it's 90 degrees. It's actually about 100, 105. And that's why people often go wide. They stop steering when they've mentally got 90 degrees and they've got another 15 to go.
Do you favour using the curb on the inside of 7 or not?
No, you just you cut as close as possible.
It's Canapeno. Canapeno's got the draft. And he's got the inside line to 10A, and he's got the position, and that's a new second position from Canapeno. So was that just a little mistake out of turn 7?
Top speed. So it would be that if Spain can get back on his tail the next time round, there'll be a chance he can drag straight past again.
So we're at the final round of the IMSA iRacing Pro Series presented by SimCraft, Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. Nick Damon and me, John Hindhaugh, in the Hackney Global Broadcast Centre for IMSA Radio and IMSA TV together. 3 cars battling for second in GT Le Mans, and another big draft down the back straight as Julian Santero this time pulls the carbon copy move in the black and yellow car that the green and white of Agustin Canapeno did last time around. Now, it is a free setup, Nick, so how much is wing angle going to be, rear wing angle, going to be affecting that top speed from Bruno there? Or has he picked up a tiny bit of damage?
Well, that's actually kind of thing that might possible. There's a possibility of that, because the interesting thing was, obviously, he had a bit of a toe himself in Canapino, but still Santero got past him. So either he's running a little bit more wing, which would beg the question why it took Canapino so many laps to get past him.
Oh, right in front of Canapino, and Canapino's been taken off. That was an incident there. And
he just braked to avoid, actually. I don't think he had any. I think he braked to avoid. But that's lost him 2 places on that braking to avoid. But it's
coming out of 5, that was.
Unlucky.
As we head towards heart distance, so Canapeno has to do it all again. I'm looking very carefully at the middle to the left-hand side of the bumper on the second BMW in that battle for second now, just to see. It's very difficult with that matte, dark grey, charcoal colour to see if there is a bit of damage there. But even sometimes, if we can't see the damage, there still may be damage. Now, that was the Porsche number 91 that was spinning. There was just a tiny little, tiniest of taps, Nick, from Canapino on Dylan Murray in that Riley Motorsports SimCraft Racing Porsche.
Yeah, Murray had gone too far across the curbs in 5, because behind the curbs there is some dust. Now, what Canapino done? Canapino thinks he's got a small amount of damage. Remember, there is a fast repair here. So what will happen is he'll get fueled up and the car will be back to 100% with no loss of time.
And you reckon no tyres required here?
No tyres required, he's just fueling up. So he's taking the pain of being slightly heavier than everyone until they come into their pit stops in 10 minutes time or so. But he wants to make sure that if there is any damage, it gets cleared. He's got a 100% car moving forward for the rest of the race.
So a bit of tactics coming in, 2 minutes away from half distance. And Canapeno then maybe wants to get out into some clear air as well, because we know how fast Agustin is. Very, very quick driver indeed, and has become a bit of a, well, he's one of the Williams eSports team, so he's not hanging around. He's racing for Junkos, or in Junkos colours as well this weekend, because that's who he's raced for in IMSA. And we know Agustin is fast, very good at the Nürburgring, and we've seen him an awful lot in the last 18 months, and he's normally been at the pointy end of the field. Meantime then, that battle for second is down to just 2 cars at the moment, at least. Santero in the number 68, that's the yellow and black car, with one of the Wind twins between them, and that's Scott Huffaker in the 51 LMP2. Behind him, sorry, go ahead.
He had to do that whole trail through the corners, and he had to wait. He managed to get past Ben, and then got stuck behind Santero and lost a bit of time running through the S's. It's very frustrating, but it's interesting. I remember from when we did the Petit Le Mans VCO, when we had people like Max Benecke and Max Verstappen, they were actually risking it going up the inside through the S's, because they trusted the other guys to let them through. But it's obvious in this race we're back with the mere mortals again, who know what they're doing, so they've decided, no, perhaps we won't risk that one going through those from turn 2 to turn 5 behind a prototype following a GTLM.
It gets very, very one line through there very quickly. Even the places where there's a tiny bit of room where you can leave a car's width on the inside for somebody very much quicker to go through, it doesn't take long before there's tyre debris and marbles on the clag around the outside of it. So again, now it's Daniel Morad now, who's right in behind. Now he's going to try and go down the inside, and he does do it. But he had to have a little bit of help there from Julian Santero, and that cost him maybe a couple, maybe 3 cars lengths. And the next car to come through is going to be the number 12. This is the recovering Michael Johnson in the Dallara, in the pink, dusty pink, I think we'll call that. It doesn't have the cuts of meat on it, but goodness me, that's pink. It really is.
Certainly gone for that fleshy tone, haven't they? But
I like it. Very good.
But so this is easy. This is when you're really quite chuffed in the prototype. Those are easy overtakes. They cost you no time at all to get past the GTLMs. You're coming down that, you catch them nice and early on the back straight. You can brake in and turn, and you lose no time. The worst place to find is the top of turn 3.
A couple of moments ago, Daniel Morad up at turn 5, really pushing the envelope, and went very, very wide at the exit of turn 5. He was lucky to get that straight and not hit the outside wall. Oh, so close. The outside Michelin's actually on the tiny little bit of grass between the curb and the very hard wall indeed. Wow, that would have been a big intake of breath.
Yeah, the issue with 5 is you drift wide. It's got a very, very inviting, massive, it seems, curve that goes on forever. Unfortunately, on the other side of the curve is a thing called dust and gravel, which is modelled quite accurately.
He's just going across the top of turn 2 and down through the S's now. It's another 6 seconds further back for the bright red number 70, and that is Daniel Morad. Those are your top 3 in the LMP2 categories. And in GT Le Mans, Rodrigo Fluker with 5.5 seconds. The 47 black and red BMW this weekend. He has raced a Ferrari. He's up into the top 10 at 10, and he's got 5 seconds on the black and yellow number 68 of Julian Santero, who is now establishing himself in second, well, by a third of a second, from Bruno Spengler, who is in 3rd position in that Bureau Sud BMW Bank, the charcoal grey and silver BMW. That's your top 3 in both classes. We've got half an hour left to go here at Michelin Road Atlanta.
We're at a commercial break.
So well inside the second half of the race now, with 26 minutes to go at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. And still this battle for second place in GT Le Mans rages on. Hello everybody, if you have just joined us, we've had an action-packed start of the race. Cars airborne, a little bit of side-by-side contact. Ross Gunn and Daniel Morad, they'll be having real words in a virtual space, I think, later on, socially distanced, obviously. The story of the race so far, Scott Andrews back in the championship in the number 74, driving away from the field. A 109.7 last time around is a new fastest lap of the race. But Scott Huffaker is pushing him very hard indeed, and the gap that was 8 seconds is down, over 8 seconds actually, it's down by about half a second to 7.5 seconds, with Scott Huffaker second, Daniel Morad third. I'm John Hindorf, and joining me, socially distanced, in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre is Nick Damon. Your thoughts on the first part of this race, Nick?
Well, action-packed, I would say. I think Scott Andrews has not put a foot wrong as we watch the James Pesek car come into pits. But talking about pit stops, Augusto Canapino, of course, came in early after having an incident with one of the other Porsches. Now, I've been watching his lap times. He was a little bit slower for the first couple of his most recent lap. has been much faster. His most recent 2 laps have been quicker than Santero and Spengler, so he's gaining now on the 2 of them. So it's going to be nip and tuck where this kind of forced undercut ends up working, because he dropped a couple of seconds, he's gained a couple of seconds, but his overall pit time was as it should have been.
So James Pesek in the blue number 40, Lance Wilsey in the black number 1, the Recaro car, teammate of Ross Gunn. They've come in with still 24, 25 minutes to go. Does that surprise you that the prototypes have come in? We thought they could quite easily do 40 minutes here.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I would have thought 40 minutes wouldn't be an issue. 42 or so probably for the, possibly even 43 or 44, because it's short laps. You can get those extra laps in here. But yeah, I would have thought that you'd be looking to run to 40 minutes, as close to 40 minutes as possible. So it may just be a choice. The thing to remember is you can look ahead on your relative. You can see there's 4 GTLMs who you're going to have to pass in the next lap. You think, well, no, I won't. I'll take the pit stop instead. So I won't waste those 3 or 4 seconds possibly passing them all. I'll just take the stop. When you get close to stop, that is the tactic, especially the chance to lose so much time through.
So into the pit lane, a couple of significant runners. John Edwards from 7th. He had a problem earlier on and was running slowly, but coming in behind him, and I don't know whether he's held up, Scott Andrews there, and also coming in behind him, one of the Wynn twins. I think that's a 51, isn't it? Yes, it is. Scott Huffaker coming in. So that's first and second in the pit lane. Daniel Morad in the number 70 has gone through and will lead the motor race. Here's the red, white and blue James Vance, Fast MD Racing, the red, white and blue car. So they must be getting tight. They don't want to maybe risk another 1 or 2 laps, Nick, in those LMP2 cars. So once this stagger unwinds, we will have the dash to the finish. It's going to be round about a 20-minute dash to the finish. Morad now has got to have a really good in-lap.
Yeah, Daniel's obviously been doing a little bit of fuel save, or he's prepared to run his tank drier and has more confidence in the virtual tank readout. But it's about a lap earlier than I would have expected, to be honest. I would expect that overall, if Morad comes in this lap, that'll be a lap earlier than I would have thought. But it's sometimes consumption is different if you set the weather and the temperature differently, or he's doing another lap.
Wow.
Morad's doing what I thought he would do, which is going to come in at about 39 and a bit minutes. And come out at 40 and a bit minutes. So the others, I think, no one can save 2 laps of fuel in 40 minutes. So the others have chosen to come in slightly earlier, based on traffic or just based on we've got enough of a lead. Let's just not leave anything to chance.
How much is that driven, and what kind of decision making is going on by what you can see on the tracker and what whoever your spotter is telling you? If you're going to hit a gaggle of cars, you might as well pit a lap early, surely.
Yeah, if there's any danger of hitting a car, a GTLM car, going around up the hill between 2 and 3 and having to follow them through the S's, which is a 2-second loss, slam dunk, 2-second loss, nothing to do about it, then obviously coming in 2 laps earlier and potentially losing 2 or 3 tenths of having a lighter car for a couple of laps, it's a no-brainer, isn't it? So absolutely, if you've got someone reading the track, either yourself or a spotter, that's what you need to do.
And as far as fueling the cars, clearly they don't need a full fuel load. So getting the right amount in, because if you just leave it there to fill up, that's seconds you're going to waste, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I'm looking now at the times for the stops, and they're very varied. We've got 24 seconds for Scott Huffaker, 19 for James Vance. And don't forget, the fueling is automatic. You automatically get the fuel you need. I mean, you can up and down it by a couple of litres either way, but there's no missteps. Somebody isn't going to put the hose in wrong and lose you 5 seconds. It's a choice of how much you take. Now, there can be little bits of mini repair to be made, which will be instantaneous with fast repair. So the change differences are quite interesting. Rob Wiggins 25.2 seconds, but so the leader, Scott Andrews, was stationary for 22.5 and in the pit lane for 44.3. So it'll be interesting to see how long Daniel's in those 2 things.
It's Nick Damon, I'm John Hindorf. Andrews has gone back through, so he will be back in the lead, and our leader from GTE hits the pit lane as well, Rodrigo Fluka in the black and red BMW. So now that battle between Santero and Spengler is for the lead, but of course they have yet to make their pit stop to get fuel in to get them to the end. And under 20 minutes to go now, so they've been running over 40 minutes plus the formation lap. So it won't be long before these two BMWs peel in. Andrew's got a massive advantage in that pit stop cycle. I mean, he was down around about just over 7 seconds. He's taken 2 seconds in that pit stop sequence out to Scott Huffaker at the sharp end of the field, Nick.
Yeah, he's making 0.8 out of Daniel Moray, despite spending longer stations. So obviously, he did a very, very good entry and exit.
Yeah.
Now, the ability is there. That it's one of the things that you can do is that if you hit the limiter, if you do it manually and don't get it wrong, it's actually quicker to do it manually than actually run on the limiter. You can gain a few tenths by doing that, but obviously there's a massive risk. You'll get a 40-second stop and go for speed in the pit lane. But it is about a mile an hour you can make, which at the very low speeds of the pit lanes is a big advantage.
I can't even begin to think how difficult that might be to do. So everybody pitting now. Now, as it stands at the moment in GTLM, Santero, Spengler, Eng, Milner and Conor de Filippi have not yet stopped. Rodrigo Fluker is running again. He's only 6 seconds behind Conor and with his pit stop done. So clearly he will cycle back to the sharp end of the field unless something goes wrong between now and then. Now, if this has whetted your appetite, and why wouldn't it, it's really easy to get involved with iRacing. Trust me, it's so easy, even Nick Damon can do it.
Thank you.
All the details are at iRacing.com.
Well, I do think that
here comes Santero. Sorry.
If you're gonna do it now, because there's an absolutely splendiferous offer came yesterday to celebrate the launch of the new NASCAR Gen 7s. There is a special code. I can't remember. I think it's 2022. But you can find the special code, which actually gives you for $20.22 a whole year's of iRacing.
Wow. Okay. Very good.
So massive reduction there based on the Gen 7 cars. So if you like roundy racing as well as track racing, you are incredibly well served.
In for Tommy Milner and Conor de Filippi. So that leaves soft foot, very, very light-footed Spengler in the lead at the moment, and he's got a couple of seconds on Philip Eng in the red, white and black BMW. Philip Eng, championship leader, started in 5th on the grid and at the moment cruising towards the title. Spengler not been in all the races this year. Welcome him back here. What a year he's had, dominated the championship last year. And comes underneath the Fox Factory bridge and stays to the right hand side and dives in. I presume Eng will do the same. Yes, he does. So now the car that we've got to watch is Julian Santero and Rodrigo Fluker. So Fluker in the 47 is who we've got to be watching. He's now coming down to turn 10A at the bottom of the back straight. So the two BMWs, Spengler and Eng, in the pit lane. Here comes Rodrigo through the final corner. That car looks very planted through the final corner from Fluker. Steps aside to let Michael Johnson go through in the pink Dallara. And he's back. Oh, that was a bit bizarre. And that they are wringing every bit of performance out of those BMWs.
Yeah, in fact, Canapino's done quite well because he was running a theoretically slower car and he's ended up, I think, exactly as far behind as was when he came in the pits. I think he's had a few good laps, or been lucky when he's been overtaken. But he's back in the game again with 10 laps or so to go.
I think he's closer because when he had that incident with Dylan Murray, when he had to avoid Dylan, he dropped the back a couple of seconds, didn't he? Nice blend from. Do you know what? That was closer than it looked there. As Spengler came out, he had to stay at the right-hand side of the dotted line. As he blends in, he can't just pull left and block. And Julian Santero would have just seen that car and known that he had just about enough. So this is a real battle now. Last quarter of the race. At the head of the field, Scott Andrews leads Scott Huffaker by now 11.5 seconds. Morad is closing in on Huffaker for second. And in GT Le Mans, Rodrigo Fluke at 6 seconds to the good now. And then Santero, Spengler, Canapeno pretty much together for second, third and fourth. Yellow and black second, black and silver or dark grey and silver in third, and then white with the green overstripe, that is in fourth position. All battling for position. The red, white and black car just another 1.5 seconds or so behind. Check that, make that 2 seconds behind is Philippe Eng, championship leader, coming into this final round of the iRacing Pro Series presented by SimCraft. Cracking stuff for second place in GT Le Mans, Nick.
Yeah, Bruno Spengler's got an issue. His setup is not as quick in a straight line as the other two. He was as close as you can possibly be behind the pack of Santero there, and just couldn't draft past him. So he's running a more flexible setup around the rest of the track. But at this point, he's just not got the draft. My guess is that Canapino, who's now joined the back of this, is probably going to be able to get past him down the back straight next time. Now,
Nick, as I mentioned that Morad was catching the back of Scott Huffaker, and they're catching that 3 BMW battle for second in GT Le Mans. Now, good news for Scott Huffaker, because he hasn't caught them in the S's. He might just be able to drag past them on the back straight. Well, he's going down the inside at turn 7. Canapeno just breathes out from the apex and gives him room, but it wasn't a perfect exit onto that long curving back straight. Morad in the bright red number 70 Moradness car, getting a little bit of draft from each of the BMWs as he swaps from left to right. I think there's a net gain for Morad there through that sequence. He was about 1.5 seconds behind. He's less than a car's length behind now, coming through 10B underneath the Fox Factory Bridge down towards the final corner with 12 minutes to go, and the battle for second is on. Big defensive move by Scott Huffaker early in the piece on the front straight, and that might have put Morad off, but that massive net gain in that last lap through the traffic for Daniel Morad in the red number 70, Nick. And then there's a shunt in the battle for second. Santero and Spengler have gone around, and once again Canapeno is avoiding the accident and going through at turn 3, and also nipping through there was Philippe Eng going into third. Tommy Milner hasn't come around yet in the Corvette, so those two will resume, and it'll be Santero in fourth, and fifth will be Bruno Spengler. Just side-by-side contact again between 2 and 3. Meanwhile, battle for second in LMP2, Nick, on the back straight.
Yeah, I was about to say Canapeno actually lost really badly out of these two battling down last time, man. Morad pops out, and he should be able to, but it's a case of toughing out. He's got a third of a car, and basically Huffaker held it. Oh, we got a little bit of a wiggle on, but got through there. So that was a little bit of help there, I think, from Huffaker. He probably realised he didn't much point fighting it. But Canapino in the previous lap lost ground, but that saved him when he went up top of the hill and the other two collided.
So new second place then as Morad goes through and takes the position from Scott Huffaker. That had been coming, but really good run through. Oh, and a little mistake at the top of the hill from Daniel Morad. Took too much curb at 3, bounces the bright red number 70, the Allegra Motorsports and Moradness Satellite E-Stars car, to very close to getting, I think actually the left-hand side Michelins were on the dirt and the red Georgia clay. Right, let's see if we can work out what happened in that battle for GT Le Mans in second position. A little mistake from Santero going up the hill from turn 1, and then it's a side-by-side manoeuvre into, too much curb again on the inside at turn 3. And how close was Spengler to Canapeno? You could not have put a very, very short novel between the two of them there. that was all on Spengler on the inside curb at 3.
That was Spengler at that one. Yeah, I mean it's easy to do. You get it. There really isn't the room for two cars to turn side by side for that tight turn at 3, even though you think there might be, and you pray there might be, and you really hope there might be when you're going for second place in a major race. But you find, unfortunately, it's a big curve, which I believe Drew and his team redrew recently, which made it even more realistic, but even more like to throw you off the track. And that was the result, unfortunately. But that one's on Spengler, I'm afraid.
Morad has cleared off, but the gap between himself and Scott Andrews. That was, remember, just before the pit stops, the gap between Scott Huffaker and Scott Andrews was about 7 seconds. The gap now between Scott Andrews after the pit stop, after that scrap between Huffaker and Morad now through to second, but it's now 16 seconds. However, last time around, there was a little bit of a gain by Daniel Morad. But if you're Scott Andrews now, surely, with 8.5 minutes to go, you are managing that gap. Fabulous move round the outside by Daniel Morad. Just a little bit of a lock-up from Scott Huffaker. And the left-hand side Michelin's just complaining a little bit as the pass was made. Fair enough, that one, Nick?
No, he goes, but I mean,
Vance is his closest competitor. He's in 4th position. So Morad stretching the gap, which is already 12 points between himself and Vance. Then it's Pesek, Johnson, McMurray, Nick Bull, Scott Andrews in 8th position. But he's going to make up a lot of positions in the final standings in the IMSA iRacing Pro Series presented by SimCraft.
I think that Scott, if it stays as it is now, is probably going to end up 3rd, actually. Overall,
are you doing a little bit of arithmetic as we go on with pen and pencil?
I think he's going up 3rd. It's still up in the air because we're Pesek and the points he gets, but my guess is going to go more advanced. Scott Andrews is 1, 2, 3 in the prototype class. Of course, Andrews will have a 2 from 2 victory, and it's looking very much like Morad's going to have 3 second places, which is impressive.
Winning the championship without standing on the top step of a podium. It's been done in Full Metal Racing. Philip Eng with a comfortable 12-point lead on Conor De Filippi in 2nd and John Edwards in 3rd. And the man scoring the most points who's chasing him is Julian Santero, but he's behind him now after that little schmozzle at the top of the hill, but only by 1 position, but it's 9 seconds the gap. So Eng with 2 wins in the bank, surely cruising to another BMW Championship win in the IMSA iRacing Pro Series presented in 2021 by SimCraft. Morad 16.5 seconds back, now just railing the laps off with just under 6 minutes to go. I tell you what, Andrews, he had 1 slow lap there in the 111s. He's back down under 110 again. He's been under 110 more times than he's been over 110.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
I think what it is really is that, I think at 11 was when he was stuck behind a bit of traffic, but in free air he's been comfortably the fastest car from qualifying onwards, and I think he's got almost half a second lap on everybody. He just absolutely gelled with his combination of car and track, and he's putting in the sort of top split of a VCO Pro Grand Slam series time.
It'll catch up to you somewhere around the lap.
What you need to understand, I think, obviously this is virtual racing and there aren't the G-force. These cars are moving around all the time underneath you at this track with the undulations and the narrow ribbon. You've got the thing moving the whole time. You're constantly steering and correcting either the throttle or the steering. You can see it going here. It's a really visceral experience, and that's why it's one of the best tracks, because you're doing something the whole time. But it's also kind of a track that's quite fair. There isn't an individual corner that's trying to catch you out. There isn't a corner where you've got to worry about each lap, like Eau Rouge or like the corkscrew. It's a circuit where every single corner is fair, but you have to be really accurate to hit the decent time.
Doesn't that make it difficult, though, when you talk about the G-forces and the car moving around? Doesn't that make it even more difficult for the virtual racer? Because not everyone has got a SimCraft full 6 degrees of motion 6-axis rig, and therefore all you're doing is all you're getting is what you can see and feel through the steering wheel. Now this is another problem for Bruno Spengler. Lance Wilsey up the inside has absolutely nailed him at turn 7, and Bruno Spengler facing the wrong direction on the blue and yellow curbs at turn 7, and Spengler's dropped down to 6th position.
Unfortunately, that's on the prototype, I'm afraid.
That was Lance Wilsey in the number 1.
You can't dive up the inside of a GTLM going to 7. It looked very inviting, but their line is to swing across wide and through, and they won't know you're going to do it. So, because normally you wait because you can get a nice run at the back and steal a bit of a tow as well.
Overall leader putting a couple of laps, a lap on a couple of cars there. I think it will be, well, it's going to be 2 to go here with 2:42 to go, possibly 3 actually, just depends when he crosses the line. Remember, white flag will only be displayed at the start-finish line.
It's got 3.
Yeah,
3. 1 2 more.
Yeah, I agree.
And John, going back to what you said, I mean, this is the thing that makes the sim race, the good sim race and the great sim racer. It's that ability to pilot the car with a much more limited sensory set than you have in a real machine. Now, the real machine has massive challenges of the physicality. You get so much more information sent to your body about what the car's doing. Here, you're sitting, you see, it's super relaxed as it seems, but you're having to interpret very much less information to achieve the same result.
Note to people running LMP2 in the real world: A, buy some Talaras. B, sort your liveries out, because honestly, these cars look great. They look really, really good. Scott Andrews then, he will come around with about 1 minute and 30 to go. So it will be this one and one more. Remember, the white flag comes out at the start-finish line when that clock hits 0. Now, whether that's just as you've passed the start-finish line or just as you're coming to it, that can determine how many laps to go. But I reckon he'll get through, unless he lifts off now. He's got 14 seconds of a gap. That was a 1:10.0 last time around through traffic, in behind the BMW of Philippe Eng. Those are the 2 cars and drivers I think that are going to be your champions. That's Philippe Eng in 3rd position in the 89, just had a lap put on him by Scott Andrews. And
Andrews.
Morad's. No, Morad's going to take the championship.
Well, because Andrews obviously missed out in the middle of the race, unfortunately.
Correct.
But so Morad will take the championship. But we're still thinking that 3rd step overall will go to the man who's absolutely dominated this race. Scott, he's driven brilliant. I looked at his lap times. You can see when he's, apart from traffic, he's just been punching out the 9s, which is not an easy thing to do. He takes a high level of precision at every corner.
White flag is being waved. Wow.
That's
excellent
Barney.
Stuff. Barney the flag man. So 2.5 miles. Canapeno goes a lap back on the leader. He's 7.5 seconds behind Rodrigo Fluke, who will take another podium finish and a victory in that 47 BMW as it is. Meantime, Harry Gottsacker has just disappeared from 7th position, but it's Scott Andrews who is currently cruising to another victory. We will ask him at the end of the race what he was doing for race 2, because he has been outstanding this season, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, this is just brilliant driving. I mean, he hasn't put a foot wrong. He's managed to. I mean, you need luck, as we've seen going round to the other cars. Sometimes you need a bit of luck to avoid the incidents. But I think he made the brakes. He hadn't got to worry about looking behind him, and then at that point you can concentrate only on what's in front of you. And sometimes, I've seen a couple of times he has taken that slow run through the S's, because that was the sensible thing to do, and he had worked for it before.
Checkered flag then, and our winner for the 3rd round of the IMSA iRacing Pro Series, presented by SimCraft. Fantastic run for Scott Andrews, 3rd ahead of James Vance in 4th. Robert Wickens, a fantastic comeback drive to 5th position after being sideways early on and off the track early on. The number 6, Brian Hearn Autosport, the Duck Egg Blue, the Hyundai N Series blue coloured car in 5th, and James Pesek in 6th. And in GT Le Mans, everybody's finished except the leader. So Augustin Canapeno in 2nd, Philippe Eng in 3rd, Julian Santero in 4th, and your winner, Rodrigo Fluke, who comes through last man to cross the line. Fantastic stuff. Nick Damon.
Yeah, I mean, Rodrigo, we saw him at the last race, flaunting the Ferrari. Notice how the car faded in the second half of the race, and obviously decided to invest his $12 in getting a BMW, which just certainly supported him right through the race. And it was a superb performance by Fluker once he got into the lead. Well done to Augustine Canapino, who suffered the season out outrageous fortune on several parts of the track, but intelligent stop there. If you think you've got a bit of damage, stop, especially when you got a free repair, and came third a second. So that was Philippe Eng, our champion. Did manage to win all three with 2 wins and third. So I think, again, GT Lane are absolutely delivering, both in their performance and also the way they tried to avoid the P2s, but not always successfully.
I think the addition of the P2s to make that a multi-class this year was a real hit. Confirmation of the IMSA iRacing Pro Series, presented by SimCraft at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. Scott Andrews in the number 74 Riley Motorsports RHE eSports machine, wins by 15 seconds over Daniel Morad in the red number 70 Allegra Moradness Satellite E-Stars. In third position, Scott Huffaker in the number 51 PR1 Matheson Motorsport wins coloured LMP2 car. That's your podium. Then it's Vance Wickens, James Pesic, Michael Johnson, Harry Gottsacker disappeared at the end. Don't know whether he got a disconnect or he fell off the track. Then Lance Wilsey making up the top 9 at least. And in GTE, confirmation of Canapino. Scott Andrews notched up the victory. I suspect that wasn't as easy as it looked from the outside. Man, your pace was outstanding.
Thanks. Honestly, I was like shaking nervous like during quali and stuff, because I didn't this time like put a whole lot of time into it, because I just moved into a new apartment and I only just set up my sim. I haven't touched for like 3 weeks, so I was like a little bit nervous to see the other guys' pace and stuff. And yeah, it was my biggest the strategy for me was just had to get a good first lap, because I ran a lot higher downforce setup than I think of you guys around me, and I knew that I'd be really vulnerable on the straight, and yeah, just had to make sure I made the most of the corners, but I knew it would come to me to the end when the track gets hard and the tires get get worn and get a bit of deg, and yeah, the wing paid off. But
now, Scott,
yes,
you told me exactly the same story at Sebring, that you hadn't had a lot of time to get your setup. And you even told one of your competitors that you were running a baseline setup, which we know is not true. And it was described to me that you are the trick setup. So come on, you can't be telling me that again. You had something both at Sebring and here.
Yeah, I mean, I like Sims. I've there's I don't know.
Oh, just lost you for a moment there. Not sure.
I don't know. So.
Oh, there he's back.
Sorry, did you lose connection?
Yeah,
I guess all I was saying was Sims just sort of makes sense to me. I get on them even if I have a big hiatus and don't touch one for years even, and I can just sort of understand it. So yeah, it's weird.
Right, final question. Congratulations. We think that's given you third in the points championship. Nick's just doing the addition at the moment. Why weren't you at the second round?
Oh man, I was flying back from Barcelona from the Le Mans Cup race, and then straight to Mid-Ohio. We had a test in the new Toyota Supra GT4 car with Riley, so I fortunately couldn't make it.
Well, we wish you all the best in Full Metal Racing this year. It's been a pleasure to have you. Pleased you've enjoyed it. Pleased you've taken it so seriously. Scott, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks, and thanks for commentating, and it just sounded really great on the broadcast, so cheers.
Do you think I was going to miss this kind of entertainment, do you? Thanks, mate. Have a good one. Let's move to Daniel Morad, who is second in this race overall, and that is his third second.
I was just thrilled that I got within 0.02 of a second to his fastest lap, so that was really good. I mean, the race from lap 2 onward unfortunately didn't go the way I really wanted it to, with Mikael Jensen pushing me wide, not really respecting the hard work we all put in this championship, and kind of making a one-off appearance and just not really respecting all the drivers out there. But that's tough racing. A little more awareness would have been great. But to come back and just keep my head calm. I had my Twitch chat like, just calm down. You have the pace. You could do this. Just come back. Really had some good guys in my corner. We had Cy Andra and Suelio Almeida, Dion Fiallo. They all helped me with setup and also with strategy in this race, fuel saving, and that really brought us back into the game. After the pit stop, we closed about a second and a half to Scott, and I really worked on saving for that first stint, and after that, it was full push to the end, and didn't hold anything back there. Went full aggressive. Listen, I didn't need the P2 today, but I wanted it, and I'm a competitor, and it wouldn't make me a racing driver if I didn't see the gap and go for it. So went for that digital gap. No consequences either, clearly, but good fun.
Before the pit stop, Daniel, you were quite close to Scott Huffaker in seconds, but then you couldn't get past him after the pit stop, and Scott pulled out from about 7-8 seconds to nearly 16 seconds. Was that slightly frustrating, or does that just show how tough it is to pass in these P2s around Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta?
Yeah, you don't realize how much aero wash there's a lot of dirty air from the aerodynamics on these cars, and it's tough to follow around Road Atlanta. With the low downforce trim as well, it just makes it almost impossible to follow through, the first sector. Really, the only benefit you do get is onto the back straight going down to turn 10. But at that point, your tires are hot, you're overheating. A lot of people don't realize how accurate iRacing is in modeling the tire, the thermal wear and the thermal degradation. So these cars are very, very sensitive on the tire temperature.
Sure. And
it's very easy to light up the rears. You can see a lot of the cars slipping and sliding out there, especially going onto the back straight out of 7. And when that happens, if you repetitively keep using a lot of yaw angle on the exit, you overheat your rear tire, and at one point you increase your wear. So I was just trying to play the long run, really trying to keep that car as straight as possible. And at the end, I really had the pace, and I just capitalized in traffic and was trying to be smart.
Well, listen, congratulations. You've made history as our first ever LMP2 champion in the IMSA iRacing Pro Series presented by SimCraft. One-word answer, and I hope it's the first of these 2 words. Yes or no, you're going to come back and defend next time we do this?
Yes.
Well, I was mainly focused on my race. I'm very happy to be here in the broadcast. Well, yes, it was a tough race, focusing in the pace. The beginning, it was all about making the move in the correct place. I know Agustin Canapino is a very experienced driver. Actually, I began in sim racing because I watched back then in F4 South America 2016 when I was driving. And at that time, sim racing was not that common. And Agustin was already in the simulation. And I saw, he's like winning everything. And for me, it's quite good to have race against him. It was a really nice battle for position. But after then, I don't know very much what happened after that.
You didn't get a score in the first race at Sebring, but you got a good finish at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. But you've changed cars. You ran very well in the Ferrari at Laguna Seca. What prompted the change to the BMW for this round, Rodrigo?
Well, it was a happy coincidence that on Sunday we had the BMW 120 race. So all the team, PRT, running Sim Sport, we worked together in an awesome setup for that race, and it was logical for me to drive the BMW this Thursday, Well, it worked,
It paid off. It certainly did. Rodrigo, you look good out there. Car looks fantastic in that livery. Thank you very much for being with us, and congratulations on the win. 47 at Motorsports, PRT, Run and SimSport. Rodrigo Fluker, congrats, mate.
Thank you very much, John. Very happy to be in the broadcast and listen to your comments. Thank you.
I'll see you at a racetrack soon, I'm sure. Thank you, Rodrigo.
Hopefully.
Yes, indeed. And let's finish off then with the driver who finished in 3rd position, so on the podium for Philippe Eng. So not the clean sweep, Philippe. Oh, my goodness, it was all happening in front of you at various times. Congratulations, confirmed as the GT Le Mans Drivers' Championship. You nearly got taken out by other people's accidents at least twice, I think, that I saw.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It was one hell of a race. yeah, as you said, there were 2 or 3 moments where I thought I'm game over and I have to press escape, which I eventually didn't have to do. But yeah, it was a never-ending race, to be honest. I didn't quite have the pace today for some reasons, which I still don't know. But the main thing was to win the title, to win the championship, and it's a great honor for me. And thanks to IMSA for putting this up. I already said it last time, but it's a really cool thing. Thanks to my team, BS Competition, BMW Motorsport, and my guys. They did an outstanding job.
I've got to say, I said it in the last race, and I said it last time we did this, but the standard of driving that we're seeing and the respect that we're seeing here, Philip, in what could easily be seen as something that, it's just a bit of fun. I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing people taking this very, very seriously, and no more so than particularly you guys at BMW.
Yeah, I mean, we are so competitive, and we always want to win. I think that's just in our nature. And for me personally, I just hate losing, and I could not play Monopoly against you because we would not be friends anymore afterwards. So let's just avoid that. Now we are taking it very seriously in the preparation, in the setup work together with Kai and the team, with our spotters in the background. Nathan was doing a great job today, Elias last time. So we are taking it as a proper race event, which it actually is.
Certainly is, and it's been well organised by iRacing and IMSA, and we thank SimCraft, of course. Are you at the Nürburgring this weekend for the qualifying?
Yes, I will be driving there in 6 hours, so I'll better get some rest now.
We'll be covering that, so we'll be keeping that's a Sunday race, unusually, for the 6-hour qualifying race from the Nürburgring. We'll have that on the Radio Show Limited network of channels in sound and vision. Thanks.
It's given that frisson of having 2 races would be the it's given that frisson of having 2 races would be the issues of the cars getting in each other's way and the tactics that all comes with that. So yeah, I mean, I think that's the greatest thing. 3 great tracks, and they finished on the best one.
Oh, well, that was another cracking 1-hour long race from virtual Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. Again, thanks to everybody who's taken part. The PRs have been involved, all remotely, of course, to our brilliant team up at Boston at the global headquarters for broadcasting for iRacing, Drew, Cisco, and everyone else who's worked on the IMSA iRacing Pro Series presented by SimCraft. You can start your simulator racing career. Go to iRacing.com, and don't forget there's some offers on there at the moment. For Nick Damon, I'm John Hindorf. That was IMSA iRacing Pro Series presented by SimCraft for 2021. See you at the next one. Bye-bye.